Hello, everybody. My name is Julie, and I would like to mention a topic that I'm very passionate about and that I think many should take the time to educate themselves on it and really understand how this not only affects our cities and our friends and our families and our politics, but affects everybody in neighboring cities and our future generations to come. Now, I chose to talk about the criminalization of homelessness and how we as citizens can prevent our politics and our states from setting these laws that affect humans that are just like us. Now, imagine waking up one morning with no roof over your head. You didn't lose your job because you were lazy. Maybe your rent shot up. Maybe you had a medical emergency. Maybe you age out of the foster care system. Now, picture being arrested just for sleeping on a sidewalk. Not because you're a threat, but to others, you're visible and you're not like them. You're not like the normal. You're not like the usual. And people want to find a way to make you different than them. This is what criminalization of homelessness looks like. It's happening in our own cities right now. I'm telling you this today, and it's not as a product, but I want you to buy into the truth that punishing unhoused people is unfair and considerate, and not how we should be reacting as fellow human beings. I decided to make my ad very intentional, with the background being a dark green, very similar to a billboard. One of the most populated cities with a homeless population in California is Los Angeles Skid Row. Now, Skid Row has many signs. People will always post something, whether it's on the freeway, highway, sidewalk, neighboring towns, and the most um poor of places to the most rich of places, but billboards are very common. Now, I hope to have my ad campaign as a billboard, and I hope to reach college students. I hope to reach the citizens of cities with large homeless populations and have billboards up where people can hopefully have their eyes opened by the situation. And I would also like to post on social media, whether it be Instagram, TikTok, hopefully a reel pops up, even a video to change people's minds on this topic. Now, in this picture, we have a homeless man, and there's this common misconception about homeless people that they're beggars and that they beg and they whine, and we should not give them our pity. But it's not about that. This man in the picture, excuse me, is clearly holding up a sign saying seeking human kindness. He simply wants the same respect that you treat your friend, your family, your brother, and your sister. And he's hoping to seek that even if his condition is not the best, he could be asking for a lot more. And every person is different, but he clearly doesn't have much belonging to his name. Only his clothes don't look new. They're used, they're old. He just has his hat next to him as his personal belonging, and he's only sitting on a towel. This man just wants to seek human kindness instead of asking for someone to buy him a home or to fix his situation completely, but just make it better. In over 100 US cities, it's illegal to sleep in public. Sit in certain areas, it's depending on each city, but you can't ask for help in a street corner. These aren't isolated policies. They're laws, and they're increasing. Rather than investing in housing or mental health care, cities often swoop sweep homeless encampments, ticket individuals, and send them to jail creating criminal records for people already in crisis that aren't able to fend for themselves when put into these positions. A report by the National Homelessness Law Center found that laws banning sleeping in public have increased by 50% in the last 10 years, even when there are no shelter beds available. These people aren't criminals, they're just unhoused and misunderstood, especially by our own government. I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest for our activists, our college students, our citizens of cities with these homeless populations that get to see them and visit them every day to think about who you're voting for, who you're putting in our government that control these situations and, as we can see, are increasing unhoused individuals, and it'll only get worse as time goes by. Now, you might think this doesn't affect you, and I'll tell you why it does. The cost of criminalizing homelessness includes millions of taxpayer dollars in police time, jail resources, and legal processing, money that could have gone to housing solutions. And when we allow this to be normalized, we're all complicit in a system that says property is more valuable than its people. And then you have to think about how our government would start treating us, considering that we are no longer individuals in its eyes. Here's where I provoke many to really open up their hearts for these people and know that they are just like us. And every day you look out for yourself in our government is a day you should be looking out for them as well. On my ad, I've put two slogans that I want to stress, and that is homelessness is not a crime. These people are not doing wrong. You don't know the situation they're in, nor how they got there, nor where their hearts or brains lie. And poverty does not mean a life sentence. It's very important that we set boundaries um, and keep our cities safe. But as these regulations of uncamping, of non-camping laws and certain rules get set up in our cities, that means the police get more involved with our homeless population, and that we can start seeing police brutality even, or just a mistreatment of humans. This sounds ridiculous considering that a lot of people would find this not affecting them and only affecting our homeless, but it affects you day and day as our government will start to allow this type of treatment to our homeless population, meaning they could eventually start allowing this towards us. Now, let's talk about who gets targeted the most by these laws. Now, our LGBTQ community and especially our youth are kicked out by many families, and in that case, it can result in homelessness. Someone you once knew, who went to your school, who you used to see every day, could unfortunately be caught up in the situation where their family does not accept them and end up on the streets. Therefore, we don't know how these people end up there, nor whether they deserve to be there, which is even more important as to why we should let them stay in peace. Veterans who serve this country. Many of our veterans, post-retirement and post-service in our country, end up homeless because they can't fend for themselves with the amount of money they have left. And finding a job after serving in our military can be difficult considering your physical and mental health, especially with PTSD or certain anxieties that you learned when you were serving in our military. Disabled and mentally ill individuals who have nowhere to go. It's hard. Some of these people do not have money to go to hospitals and treat themselves, psychiatrists and treat themselves, or get the right and proper prescriptions for themselves, and they end up being unhoused. These are real people, and they are being swept off sidewalks like trash. On the side here, I have a quote from the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty, and it says, people who are cited or arrested for homelessness related offenses are 11 times more likely to remain homeless. As this criminalization grows, no matter how these people got there from not being accepted to their family, or to not having enough money for themselves, or not being able to find the proper help, this criminalization is becoming more normalized in our government, and it's only affecting these people's mental and physical health. As soon as they get kicked out and have nowhere to go, they only relocate, and that only makes our cities more of a mess, as these people have to keep migrating back and forth and eventually being kicked out like garbage. Now think about this. You can be arrested for sleeping in public, even if there are 0 beds available in shelters. And now, simply, that's not justice. That's just a systematic failure. Our system has just failed us. If we cannot provide for our homeless, and yet then we kick them out, telling them they need to figure it out. So, here's how I would turn this message into a persuasive ad campaign, one that doesn't just inform but demands change. I'm seeking my generation, Gen Z. We're very strong, and I see many activists in our generation that can fight for this cause and stand up for these humans who don't deserve treatment like this from our government. Now, I encourage many of you to go on your social media, go spread awareness about this message, and not only think about how it affects them, but it affects you. Every day that these problems continue, our government only normalizes um, the mistreatment of humans. Now, we need to rethink our policies, our government, and more importantly, our way of life. Here, I put a little image of handcuffs and being X'd out. We cannot we cannot have poverty result in crime. These people are not committing crimes. And it's the only crime is our government committing the only people committing a crime is our government, as they keep telling these people to move, relocate, and not allowing them to have a voice. These people cannot defend themselves. I'd like to end with my two open-ended questions, and that is, if you lost everything tomorrow, how would you want society to treat you? And my second question is, what could we do instead of punishment to actually reduce homelessness? I encourage everyone to meditate on this and really know that it affects everybody, not just the homeless population, not just those in need, the poor, whatever you want to label them, but it affects you too. Please, please, please consider what this problem means and spread the word. Thank you so much for listening.